Alright, so this is the part 2 of making a hyper-casual dunk it-like game inside of Unity. And in this one, we are going to work on the ball movement. So without any further ado, let's get started. So in the last one, we made a ball movement script and we are going to start working on the code. So let's open this up inside of Visual Studio. And now the first thing we want to do is remove both the using tags up here because we won't need them. And so now we are going to create a couple variables for the ball movement. So let's create a public float for the ball speed and a public float for the jump force. Alright, jump force. And we also need a reference for the rigid body 2D of the ball. Let's call it RB. And inside of the start method, we are going to get the rigid body 2D component from our ball. Get component, rigid body 2D. Alright, and now inside of the update method, we are going to move the ball from left to right. So in order to do that, we are going to use the rigid body's velocity, and we are going to set it to a new vector 2, and here we need to give it a direction in which the ball is going to move. So let's create a direction up here because we are going to change it from left to right. I'll just make an int, and for now I'm just gonna set it to 1, which is right. And now I'm going to multiply the speed by the direction and time.delta time for a smooth movement. And for the y velocity, I'm just gonna keep it as is. So now the ball will move in a particular direction, which we will set through the direction variable. So now that we are done with the velocity, let's also make the ball jump. And in order to do that, we are going to see if the player has hit the space button. So if he does, well, then we will make the ball jump. And I'm gonna create a new method here for the jump. So let's call it jump. Alright, and inside of this, we're gonna do the jump calculations. So the first thing we are going to do is, of course, add force to our ball. And the force will be equal to vector2.up because we wanted to jump upside, and multiply by the jump force. And I'm gonna keep the force mode to impulse to add all the force at once. Alright, and yeah, that's pretty much all we need to do. Let's just call the jump method up here. So now we are basically done with the movement. So let's just save it and head back inside of Unity to check it out. So let's click on the ball, and here we are going to set the speed for the movement. I'm gonna keep it at a high value, 10. For the jump force, I'm just gonna set it to 10 for now. And yeah, it's kinda alright, but it's too slow. We're gonna have to make some changes to our movement speed and also the jump force. So let's go back. And we also need to make some changes to the ball's gravity for it to fall down a bit faster. So let's keep it at 4. And for now, we're just gonna set the speed to a very low value because I just want to see how the ball reacts to the gravity and the jump force. Let's also increase the jump force, something around 20. Let's see how it works. And yeah, it falls down quickly and it goes up. And yeah, it is kind of good, but the ball keeps moving down because of the gravity scale, and we want it to cancel out all the forces in the downwards direction, and we want the ball to just jump with a regular force. And in order to do that, we need to cancel out the force or gravity when the ball jumps. So in order to do that, let's go back to our movement script. And now when the ball jumps, we also need to cancel out the y velocity of the ball. So it kind of jumps right back with a constant force. So let's do rb.velocity. We'll keep the x velocity as is, but we are going to cancel out the velocity on the y-axis. Alright, and yeah, that's all we need to do. And as for the horizontal velocity of the ball, we are also going to keep it in a fixed update method so it is much more smoother. So let's go ahead and do that. And yeah, let's save this and head back inside of Unity. Let's try it out, see how it looks. Yep, it looks much better. Now our ball is jumping with a constant upward force. Pretty cool, right? And now we can change the values to make it much more smoother. I think a jumpward force of 16 will be okay. And now we can also increase the speed of the ball. Now when the ball gets out of the camera view either in the left or the right direction, we want it to spawn from the opposite direction. And in order to do that, we will need to have some kind of walls on either side. So let's create those. Let's create an empty game object first. And let's reset the position on this one. Let's call it borders. And inside of this we are going to create another empty game object, and this will be our wall. So let's add a box collider to it. Let's drag it to the left side, just right at where the camera ends. Here looks fine. Maybe let's also make it a bit smaller, something like this. Yeah, looks fine. Let's reposition it, and let's also increase the size of the collider on y-axis. Yep, this looks fine. Drag it a bit up, and I'm just gonna call this one left border, and we'll duplicate this to create a right border. Rename this, and let's set it on the positive x-axis. And now we have our two borders on each side of the camera. Let's also place the ground inside of the borders because it actually is a border. Alright, and now we need to give both the borders on the left and right sides a tag. So let's go ahead inside of the tags, and here we will create a new tag. I'll just call this one left end, and we'll create another one for the right end. So let's hit plus, call it right end. And now we also need to apply the tags onto each individual border here. Alright, let's go for the right one here. Alright, so now that we have set the tags for each of the border, we can reset the position of the ball to the opposite side of where the ball hits. We will go to the movement script, and down here we'll use the on trigger enter method. Alright, and we'll check if the collider that our ball has hit, or the trigger that our ball has hit, has a tag of right end. So that means if our ball hits the right wall, and if it does, we'll see if the direction of the ball is to the right, in order to check if the ball was actually moving to the right side. And if it was, well, then we will set the position of our ball to the position negative to what the position of this wall is. So basically it will spawn at the left wall position when it hits the right wall. Alright, transform .position.y and put a little minus in here. It will spawn at the left wall. It might be a little confusing, but just bear with me for a minute. Let's also copy and paste this for the left wall. So now when the ball hits the left wall or the left end, and if it was moving to the left, we will then change its position to the right. Alright, let me just show you how it works. So let's go back inside of Unity, and let's change the speed of the ball so it moves a bit faster. Let's keep it at 40 and try it out. Let's see what happens when it hits the ball. And of course we also need to set the collider to trigger. So let's select both of our walls. Let's try again. Alright, it's moving, and as soon as it hits the right wall, it should spawn from the left wall. Alright, great. And yeah, it is working. Let's try to speed things up a bit. Here we go. To something like 120 something, and let's try it out. Here we go. So yeah, everything's looking fine. Let's see if it works for the opposite direction. Let's change the direction to -1. Here we go. And yeah, it spawns from the right side. Pretty cool, right? So now the basic movement of our ball is ready. And the next thing we could do is add some basket to the scene so our ball could actually score. And we're definitely going to do that in the next video. Thank you so much for watching and stay tuned for part 3.